Welcome back to BWO Daily, your source for news in sports entertainment and the world of professional wrestling from you boys at Busted Wide Open. My name is Nick Howell.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. And Nick, I don't know if you've heard, but currently there's a little something going on in the world called a pandemic.
Yeah.
In fact, it's kind of affecting all of our lives daily, especially right here in the good old U.S. of A., where we just have not been able to seem to get it under control for whatever reasons. Explanations vary, but the bottom line is that things are a little bit wonky here in the U.S., and as a result, we've all been on some form of lockdown, at least most of the places in the country, and some places are definitely worse than others. But one place that hasn't been that bad but still exists is South Dakota. And South Dakota this week actually saw the Sturgis motorcycle rally, where there was 250,000 people coming together, most of them maskless, to hang out and I don't know what they did. Talk bikes, I guess. The bottom line is it was very ill-advised. It actually took the people per square mile in South Dakota from 12 people per square mile in South Dakota normally. It took it to about 4,600 people per square mile in South Dakota. Now, that's worth noting because as of before this, there was 1,000 people who had confirmed cases of COVID in South Dakota in total. It's not a lot, considering that in Florida, there's 9,000 new cases a day. So not that many in South Dakota. Right. Having 250,000 people come in from outside of South Dakota, and who knows where they've been and what they're carrying in their big motorcycle beards, no offense, Nick, might be, it's a little questionable. So you'd think it would be a bad idea to, I don't know, play a concert in such an environment to people who are all going to be getting together and not wearing masks and breathing on each other and yelling and sweating. You'd think, right?
I would.
And you're probably wondering what this has to do with wrestling.
Yes. Well,
there's a certain wrestler, a certain GOAT wrestler, a certain famous wrestler, guy who's kind of like one of the marquee talents of one of the upstart brands right now. And that person would be Chris Jericho. And he has a band. His band's name is FOZZY. And they decided it would be a good idea to play 4 shows this last weekend up in North and South Dakota, including at the Sturgis motorcycle rally. That's right. The guy who actually to go on TV this Wednesday and face Orange Cassidy is actually, I thought it was a good idea to go out and play a maskless show in front of a crowd with very little social distancing and almost no masks. He thought that was a good idea. And I don't really know what to say more than that, Nick, other than to his defense, he was asked about this, and he said that for the most part, the band stays in the bus and doesn't interact with the crowd. He said that the crowd is offered masks and given a temperature check, which, as we know from WWE's example, where all they were doing is temperature checks, and they had an outbreak of their own that they quickly suppressed, at least in terms of the media. We don't know how big it was because they suppressed it. But the fact of the matter is they had an outbreak because all they were doing were temperature checks.
Yeah. So doesn't really do a whole lot.
But he said that, no, we're not interacting. We're not anywhere near the crowd. And he brought up the fact that South Dakota only has 1,000 cases. So he tried to play it off as being not that big of a deal. And Cody as well on Twitter, he said he was pretty sure Jericho was in a production bubble with testing and PPE, even though Jericho was posting on his social media of him not in either.
No, I saw plenty of pictures of him on stage.
Yeah.
Reaching down and high-fiving people in the front row.
Or with randos on the bus, having drinks. Yeah. So, yeah, Jericho not doing the smartest thing during a pandemic. And even the argument, I would say, that there's not a whole lot of cases in South Dakota is kind of negated by the 250,000 people coming there from elsewhere. And also the fact that it's not really about you, Chris. It's about all the people in the crowd who you might be encouraging to help spread this.
Or maybe he's looking to go hang out in the center of the earth with the lizard people in Bo Dallas.
Quite possibly.
And
saying. Donald Trump Jr.
Sure.
Who knows? That's the crowd he seems to run with sometimes. So Lord knows Chris and I have had our Twitter beefs before, but this is one that once again rubs me the wrong way. Can't argue that he's a GOAT in terms of the wrestling business, but I'll tell you, Nick, sometimes in real life the man can be a complete idiot.
Yes.
In other news, Seth Rollins says that audiences have no patience for long-term storytelling.
By God.
He was on the Gorilla Position podcast where he said, and I quote, "In the age of instant gratification, audiences don't have the patience for long-term storytelling." That's kind of like what I just said. "When you can binge watch your favorite series in 2 days as opposed to 2 months, it creates a different precedent for how we intake our entertainment. We are consuming our entertainment differently, and wrestling is not immune to this shift. We have to adapt as well to keep up with our audience. I'm in my 30s, so I grew up in the longer form of entertainment, but our younger audience isn't wired that way." And this was in reference to his ongoing feud with Rey Mysterio, in which we've seen everything from kendo sticks to the return of Dominic to a man having his eyeball pushed out of his head frontways by stairs going into his, never mind the physics of it. The point of it that I'm trying to make here is Seth is saying that people dissing his Rey Mysterio storyline are just mad because they don't appreciate long-term storytelling. Nick, do you feel like he's on to something here, or is he just barking up the wrong tree?
Wrong. Completely wrong.
Okay,
that's
why is that?
actually my biggest gripe with WWE is the fact that there's no long-term storytelling. Even AEW, that's a fledgling company, hasn't even been around a year at this point, has longer-term storytelling going on than WWE does currently. So it's actually, he's polar opposite of what we actually want. We want those long-term stories. Keep feeding us little tidbits of it. The thing that he's referring to, I believe, is that certain things do get a little long on the tooth when they're just overdone over and over and over. Like, I don't know, ref stoppages, DQs, roll-up finishes.
Oh, come on.
Those kinds of things are what
When
we have no
done well.
patience for, Seth. It has nothing to do with your long-term storytelling with Rey Mysterio that you think is what we're bent out of shape about.
Or how about dumb match stipulations like eye for an eye, which I was pretty much universally panned as a concept because it doesn't really add anything to the storyline, and it was executed so poorly that no one could invest in it. So the issue here, I mean, he's talking about how people aren't going to watch something if they can't binge it, but yet shows that are released on a weekly basis when they do come out still exist and are sometimes more popular than ever. You look at the popularity of Game of Thrones growing from year to year as people discovered it, and then we're watching it on a week-to-week basis and letting it play out in long-term form. So I disagree as well. I think it has to do more with, as you said, WWE hasn't exactly earned our trust with long-term stories because sometimes they draw out stories for weeks and months, and then it's just dropped, or it doesn't pay off. Perhaps you remember the Roman Reigns being attacked by, I don't even know who it was. Rowan, I guess, was attacking him with a car and trying to push boxes over on him. Remember that? That was a, quote, long-term story. Did it pay off? No, it was an absolute debacle. In fact, I would argue there's more evidence of long-term stories, longer-form stories in WWE not playing out well and not being satisfactory than ones that are.
I'll make your point for you.
Okay.
Rowan, since you brought him up, had me invested. Carrying that cage crate thing out to the ring every week for like 3-4 months. And then we get to the end, and he takes out something that he got at the Halloween store, a little mechanical spider. So, Seth, my point is it's not that we don't want long-term storytelling. You haven't shown us that you can execute it.
Yeah. We want good long-term storytelling. And running in circles with Ray every week, it hasn't evolved, it hasn't grown, and that's not entirely true. They have found different things to go on, but it's still Seth being mad at Ray for getting in his way, and Ray being mad at Seth for abusing him and his son. There's no arc. There's no escalation. How do you escalate past pushing an eyeball out of someone's head? Apparently beating the crap out of their son, except that was already established earlier on. So I don't see how this is a long-term story in the sense that stories build to a crescendo.
Yeah.
This is building to several crescendos, but not really evolving and changing and creating growth in either character.
Right.
So as far as the storytelling goes, it's not succeeding as basic storytelling, whether it's short or long. So that's more of the issue here, is if you want to just get down to the nitty-gritty of what is a story, this isn't a good one. So much as I think that Seth is onto something in the sense that people are into more short-form consumerism. Like they want to see like a quicker match or faster pace. They don't like slow grinding matches anymore. There's a lot of people consuming content on YouTube, don't have the attention span to sit through a 3-hour Raw. I'll admit that there's a point to be made there, and I think that he's onto something. However, to blame all of WWE's troubles and to blame the criticism of his angle with Ray on the modern audience not wanting long-term angles, especially when, by the way, a lot of the audience that you've retained is an older audience, it falls flat. This doesn't hold water.
Yep, agreed.
So, sorry,
and
Seth.
he's reaching Triple H levels of pontification lately. That doesn't help your cause either, Seth.
Well, and yeah, no doubt. That being said, Nick, that's the news for this show. Just a quick happy birthday today, Tuesday, the 11th, is the birthday of one Bill Alfonso. I don't have a ref's whistle around here, or I'd be blowing it for you right now. But Bill Alfonso is 63 years old. I don't know how he made it to that age, but happy birthday, sir. Also, 67 today, the immortal one, Hulk Hogan. Whatever you think about him, we send a happy birthday out his way, brother. So happy birthday to Hulk Hogan, and happy birthday to Bill Alfonso. And Nick, that is the news.
Well, thank you, sir, Ian Dangerous. Happy birthday to Bill Alfonso and Hulk Hogan. And thank you guys very much for tuning in for another episode of BWO Daily. Because we missed one yesterday, we're going to come at you with a doubleheader today. So stick around for the next episode after this one.
Give me two.
Two, Utah.
Two, Utah.
Give me two. Make sure you get into our Discord community and the rest of our social medias and all of that good stuff down in the links in the description below. Make sure you're subscribed here to the YouTube channel by pounding that big red button and set your notifications to all. And head over to twitch.tv/bustedwideopen. Make sure you're following our channel there. All of our live operations have moved from YouTube over to Twitch, so you want to make sure you're following us over there. We go live tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific to cover and recap everything that happened last night on Monday Night Raw. So twitch.tv/bustedwideopen. Make sure you're following us over there, and we'll see you tonight. But my name is Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at DataCenterDude.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. You can find me on Twitter at Sir Ian Dangerous.
And we will see you guys next time.